Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Sorry. My name is Hussein Mahadi. Now, I'm a moderator for today's session on intellectual property. Today is the first week of Jiipcc mentorship and internship program for IP for the third quarter. And our topic for today is intellectual property for business. We'll be having three mentors for us today. Ms. Amosa Shukrat Mutola, Mr. Sam Mbakanu, and Mrs. Christian Long. Kindly, we are waiting for others to join the call and also our mentors to join the call. I hope we can all hear me clearly. Okay, we have a good number of mentees coming in, and I can see also that one of our mentors is also on the call with us. I will start by introducing the program to us. I'll be saying a few things about the mentorship program and also making a few announcements. And also reading our mentors profile. And before we'll be giving the floor to our mentors to give their presentations on the topic for today. So about the program, Jiipcc Mentorship and Internship Program is a quarterly program for students and young professionals across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, mentorship, internship. Sorry, strength. Yeah. Okay. So mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forum, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. The program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Africa and around the world. I'll also be taking us on the objectives of the program. Objective of Jiipcc Mentorship and Internship Program, one of it is to provide easy access to quality professional guidance, training, and resource material for students and young professionals in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders, transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation, and to facilitate further mentorship, internship, scholarship, and job placement for its mentees. That's the objectives of Jiipcc Mentorship and Internship Program. And also announced that there's a 30-minute one-on-one private mentorship session available for all our mentees. You can get live hacks, secret live lessons, directions from your favorite mentor, and you can sign up for this session by using the link on the screen or just sending me a message or either of the Jiipcc admin. So I'll be taking our mentors profile. Like I said earlier, we have three mentors for today's session, and the topic for today is intellectual property for business. So our first mentor for today is Mr. San Mba Kalu. Has over 15 years experience implementing international development programs in geographical indication, international trade and investment, trade policy, research, policy reform, market access, monitoring and evaluation, capacity building, market linkage and value chains. Sound experience is cross-cutting in a complex cultural environment, applying multi-dimensional techniques and entrepreneurial capabilities to deliver results. He is the lead technical consultant on African intellectual property and innovation projects and the EU IPO funded and founded and funded programs supporting the Nigerian government to create enabling environments to project and promote geographical education in Nigeria. SAND is also leading the national research project funded by a fintech development agency, the French development agency, sorry, to identify potential geographical indications products in Nigeria. He is the current executive director of Africa International Trade and Commerce Research and International Trade Firm for the African market over the year. Sand and his team have been working on promoting and creating awareness for GIs in Nigeria. Some of the programs and projects on GI that has been implemented includes organizing the National Sustainable Development of Nigerian Geographical Indication, Stakeholders Engagement 2017, and the second edition of the Nigerian Geographical Indication Stakeholders Dialogue 2018, team making Nigerian GI global, including the most recent events that was jointly hosted a webinar series with World Intellectual Property Organization WIPO on importance of geographical indications to the sustainable development of Nigeria and many others. Sand is a current PhD student with the University of Cape Town, South Africa, holds a master's degree in MSc Business and Management from the University of Portsmouth, UK, and a BA in International Trade from University of Portsmouth, UK, certificate in trade negotiations in an era of uncertainty from European University Institute, Italy, and many other professional capacity development certificates from WTO, UNTAD, and many other reputable institutions. Thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. San Bakani. Kindly join me in welcoming our mentor for today on the chat box. Our second mentor for today is our profound mentor, Ms. Amusa Shukrat Mudupeola, who is a proficient consultant, analyst, and educator in the field of intellectual property with public sector experience. She is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization Committee and has a master's degree in intellectual property at African University Zimbabwe in conjunction with WIPO and the Japan government. She has partaken in professional training at the WIPO as well as IP related bodies and has facilitated numerous intellectual property related programs both online and offline. Ms. Shukurat is the pioneer of an educational platform, DIN, the Intangible Nuggets, which facilitates IP awareness and brings the knowledge of intellectual property closer to everyone. In celebration of 2022 World IP Day, she partnered with other stakeholders to sponsor 5 IP enthusiasts and register them for WIPO advanced courses. Ms. Amosa is an accredited agent at the Nigerian Intellectual Property Office, Nigeria Copyright Commission, Trademark, Patents, and Design Registry, and her expertise are but not limited to trademark, patents, industrial designs, copyrights, and trade secrets, respectively. Kindly join me in welcoming our mentor to the call, Ms. Amusa. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'll be reading the last profile for our last mentor for today. Christiana Longe is a legal practitioner specializing in corporate, commercial, and IP law. She has partaken in professional trainings at the World Intellectual Property Organization. She is highly skilled in providing advice and counseling to clients who are in sectors where IP is fundamental to business strategy. As you all know, our topic for today is intellectual property for business. I'll be giving the floor to our first mentor for today, Ms. Amusa Shukrat. Kindly note that you have 20 minutes to give us an overview on the topic and also any presentation you have. Miss Amosa, are you on the call, please? Miss Amosa is not responding, so I will give the floor to Miss Christiana to start with her own presentation. Miss Christiana, we encourage everyone to put on their videos while on the call. As you can all see, we are streaming live on YouTube. Thank you very much as you do so. Um, you're muted, Miss Christiana.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
So good evening, everyone. I don't have to introduce myself anymore. So we just go straight into the business of the day. And that's intellectual property for business. So we all know what intellectual property is. You know, it's the intellectual property field is very diverse, is very wide, and you know, from getting, for example, examples of the things that involves intellectual property in the space of business are patents, domain names, industrial designs, confidential information, trademarks, business, brand names, logos, and all of that. And all of those things needs to be protected for you to maximize profits in business. For example, all of these things needs to be very to be protected for you to maximize profits in business. Most times people just start a company and they feel once the company is registered, they go to bed and all the work is done. But they don't know that that's just the beginning, and that's where corporate governance comes in when it comes to business. The corporate governance to make sure the space of corporate governance to make sure everything is well taken care of in that space. And people need to be aware of the intellectual property that they need to protect, because most times people look at the costs, but once you're able to protect your intellectual property, it will even relieve you more of liabilities in the past. So owners of IP frequently use more than one IP to protect their brand. For example, a business that has been an inventor that has been granted a patent, that same patent, that same an invention that was being granted a patent can also be trademarked, or even can also be trademarked as well. So there are times where a particular product might use more than one IP features. So what are the various IP in business that is being used? We have the trademark, and the trademark protect logos, protect brand name symbols used by company to distinguish its services or products. For example, and for the trademark, they are under the WIPO NICE classification there, and that is the most accurate that is being used. There are about 45 classes where a goods or product should fall under, and the product should be registered, under that particular class of goods. And let me an example of instances where trademark has been, like I talked about starting up a business or a company, and a lot of people forget the fact that, when they start the company, they think that's where it stops. But, it's important we trademark, the brand name. So for Nigeria, if you're trademarking the brand name, is called, you have to register it under the service mark. But if you are trademarking under the logo, that's called the device mark in Nigeria. So it's just two. There are three, but I prefer to use either the service mark or the device mark. It's better that way. So let me use an example of a popular brand that did not trademark. I've had instances I've met with, I've had customers to meet with clients who, they register their company and they didn't trademark it. Maybe they felt it was not necessary at that particular time. And then maybe when the business is now booming and, they decide to trademark the name and then they submit the name and then they find out that the name is no longer available for them. While they must have registered the company, but they're not able to proceed because of, that name is very important. For example, there's this popular musician, I know most of you know it, it's called Boju. His name used to be Boju, but I think when he wanted to trademark the name Boju, he found out that name was no longer available. So he had to change his name to BNXL or so. So most times when you see the BNXNL, you would now see in brackets Boju there. And I have someone close to me that something like that happened to. So in essence, when intellectual property they are for the good of the businesses. So it's better most times to comply with all of those things. It's going to save us more stress and money. It's going to save the businesses more stress and money than for them to just when the liability comes later on to start to, it will cost them more when liabilities come. Also, the second part I've mentioned trademark, the second one is patents. For patent has to do with, when patent is granted, it protects inventions from use by others and give exclusive rights to the inventor or inventors where there are more than one. So, and for patent to be granted, it needs to meet four requirements. And the first one is it has to be new. It has to be something that is not in existence, even if that particular thing is in existence, but it has to be a new way of doing that thing. And then it should not be obvious. It should be capable of industrial application, and it must be capable of industrial application. What I mean by that is it must be when taken to the factory or wherever it's taken to. It should be, the manufacturer should be able to produce. When I mean it's capable of industrial application means when you take it to like a company, when you take because for a patent you are just trying to register an idea. So that idea, you need to like write it down, have illustrations, and that illustrations, when someone that is not in that field, when someone that did not, invent that thing, see it, should be able to make it and, make it in a way that it's plenty and it produces the same results. So that's what we mean by industrial application. It must not be obvious. I've said that. It must have inventive steps. It must also have something like what is that new thing that you're bringing into it? What are you inventing? So that's what I mean by it must have inventive steps. And then the next IP is copyright. For copyright, unlike patents, you can register, apply for an idea to be registered. But for copyright, is not an idea. It's something that is being put down. It has to be in a tangible form, not intangible form like patent. It has to be in a tangible form. For example, if it is a song, it needs to be written. If it's a book, it needs to be written as well. It's something that is tangible that you can get copyright for something that is. If it's a poem as well, it needs to be written. If it's a speech, it needs to be written. So it has to be something that is tangible, not something that is intangible. And then there's also, I think the last part is this thing is trade secrets. I know most of us would have joined the new trade grant. That's the sister of Twitter that just, that came out yesterday, and there is already an issue on it between Elon Musk and that's between Twitter and Metaverse. There's already a lot of issues in that area. The the owner of Twitter is saying the owner of Instagram, you know, infringed on his fundamental, on his IP rights, specifically on the area of non-disclosure agreements. So he did that. So that's what is on trend now. But for trade secrets, that's under trade secret as well. You know, there are companies IP that is not public. It has economic value and carries information. For example, KFC, the chicken, most times I still like think of how did they get this recipe? Like I've tried to imitate it and get something like that. I'm still learning. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but I'm still trying to find that recipe of KFC chicken. And if you go to KFC worldwide, I don't know, okay, I don't know, but if you go to KFC, any KFC restaurant, their chicken always tastes the same. That's their trade secrets. So under intellectual property, there's a provision for trade secrets to be protected. Like I've said, I've used the issue of Twitter and the risk and thread already, where Twitter is suing Thread for infringing on the IP right of the both of them are having issues on IP infringement. And I think I know last year Twitter laid off most of their staffs, and you know, you're saying that Thread, Instagram recruited some of those people that they laid off, and you know, they were able to get information from them. So that's what is basing his argument on. But we leave that for the judge to decide. I'm really like interested in that area. So for patent is public, but trade secret is not public. It's something that is like secret ingredients. It's something that should be secret. So most times it needs to be, it's all times it needs to be protected, and it needs to be protected in, you know, maybe in written forms, and you know, agreements should be drafted and all of that. So patent is public, but trade secrets, they are not public. And patent is public, but trade secrets remain unavailable to anyone but the owner. Trade secrets can involve information in business, in finances, it could be in technology, it could be in engineering, it could be in so many things that has to do with, you know, that involves secrets that has value, you know, and has information. Yeah, so, and there are various ways that we can, in conclusion, there are various ways we can, you know, if you have your IP, you don't want to use it, or maybe you've registered your IP, you can sell it to someone else's. It can be assigned, it can be leased, or it can be sold as well. So okay, it can be assigned or leased. That's the trade. Your various intellectual property rights can be assigned. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted here. So the various intellectual property rights can be assigned, or it can be leased or licensed for value. That's, you know, a monetary lump sum, and then it could also be for maybe royalties, and it could be yearly, it could be for a very long period of time, you know, whatever period of time that it is for. It's very important that we register or we protect our intellectual property right, because that's where the value lies on. I remember there was a day many times I go to during trademark, when I have a trademark to do or anything, you know, when I'm checking the publications, I always see, you know, some of all these big companies like MTN, you know, you always see their names popping up on the publications. And, you know, I keep asking myself, why do these people keep, you know, what are they trademarking? What are they trademarking? You know, I realized that any single product that comes out or that they produce, immediately they go to trademark it, because that's where their money lies. That's where they make, you know, especially most of all these big companies and big businesses, you know, they take their IP very seriously, because that's where their value lies in, and that's where they make profit from. Because once any of this right is being infringed on, it will definitely affect them. So they spend money trying to protect this right because they know that there's a lot of value in doing that. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Miss Christiana, for that wonderful overview on the topic and introduction. It was very insightful and educative. I'll be giving the floor to, we'll be coming back to you to ask some of the questions that our mentees have sent before the session later on. But I'll be calling on our next mentor to also give us an overview on the topic, Mr. Sand Mbakanu. As you all know, our topic for today is still around intellectual property for businesses. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sand Mba, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, sorry I'm joining you late. I've been on transit all day. So I just looked a place to pull over. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Did you ask me a question? Because I missed you earlier.
Yeah, I said you should, we call on you to give us your talk on intellectual property for business and like an introduction to the topic for the mentees.
Okay, just give me a minute. Let me pull over, then I'll call back.
All right.
Is that okay?
Sir. Yes,
all right,
it's
thank
okay.
you.
Okay, while we are waiting for Mr. Sand, I will be calling on Miss Amosa again. Don't know if she's available now.
Hello, Mr. Hussein. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. I would like to share my screen. Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, while I'm trying to share the screen, let me just do a brief on intellectual property for business owners. So once again, I'm Amosa Shukurat. I'll be taking us on intellectual property for business owners. So apparently, as business owners, there are different types of intellectual property to look out for. Well, firstly, you need to determine why you need intellectual property. Is it for economic benefit, or you just want to create intellectual property for creating sake? Because once you are able to determine the reason why you are creating IP, you'll be able to know either you want to generate income from it or not. So that way, you know, maybe to police it or to enforce it and now monetize your IP. But if you are creating IP just for creating sake, you possibly might not want to sue. And that is why you see some business owners, once their IP have been infringed upon, they don't go to court to sue. They just like, it doesn't matter. Why those that are in the build or they are in the business to monetize this, they actually call you out and say, you are infringing on my copyrights or my trademark and so on, then I have to sue you and you have to pay damages, and that's how they can make money from their IP. So the first thing you have to do is determine which side of IP do you fall in? Is it for the monetization aspect or just to protect your moral rights? I think I'm about to share my screen now. Okay. Please confirm if you can see my screen, Mr. Hussein.
No, we can't see your screen yet. Okay, it's coming up.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I don't know how can we do that. Yeah, do I have to pick up?
So sorry.
just type your people. I think it should work now.
Okay, so let's just go right into it. So over the years, I've witnessed that thousands of business loses their businesses and brand to competitors simply because they refuse to protect their business holistically. And by protecting your business holistically, you don't look at IP alone. You have to look at your business structure, then how your business structure or how IP can now help a business structure to build more value. For example, the business entity you want to create is important for IP. Are you creating business name? Are you doing LLC? Who is going to own the IP? Is it your personal self? Is it your business? So all of this, whenever you're creating your business plan, you have to put in your IP strategy as well. So right into intellectual property. So IP is basically the creation of human mind that is protected from exploitation by third party. So it extends to compensation creatives or business owner for the time, labor put into those creative activities. Then intellectual property, now you have to look at creativity, protection, and monetization to protect your intellectual property. Now you have to create. So that brings us to I call it IP, what's it called now? IP cycle. You have to create. When you create, you have to protect. When you protect, you have to police. When you police, you have to enforce. You have to monetize. So those are the IP circles. If you don't have that IP circle in place, then you might not be able to like utilize your IP fully. Sorry. Can you still see my slide? I think it's off.
No, ma, your slides
We
went off.
can't.
You can
Is
see
it
it
up
now.
now? Okay, yes. I was
Yes,
sharing the wrong one before. So this is the IP life cycle. You create. You can't have intellectual property over what you haven't created. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create that IP. I don't know if you have heard people talking about that intellectual property doesn't protect ideas. So the ideas in your head are not protected by IP. You have to create that IP first before you can now have intellectual property protection over it. Now you've created your IP. What next do you have to do? You have to protect that IP. And this is where the question about, do you want to monetize or you just want to put it out there? If you don't want to monetize, then there's no issue protecting. Because protecting without monetization, you're just wasting your money. But if you intend to actually protect and monetize your IP, then it is important for you to protect it. Now, when you've protected your IP, you don't just leave it there. You have to police it. You are the first police of your intellectual property. Let's now say, for example, you policed your IP and probably you caught someone who has now infringed on your IP. The next thing you have to do is to enforce it. You have to enforce your IP. By enforcing it, you tend to now monetize that IP at the end of the day. So this is the life cycle of IP: create, protect, police, enforce, and monetize. So I'll just give us this graphical explanation. So this first image now, we have someone with an idea in the head. So like we say, idea in your head cannot be protected. So you have to create it by expressing that idea, either in paper or maybe inventing something. So this second image here, you can see the person trying to express the idea in a tangible form. And you can see the third slide here, the third image here. They are now fighting like, I own it, it is yours, I own it, it is yours. This is the aspect of policing. While policing, you can see somebody else that is dragging your IP with you. Then the fourth image here, this is when you've now protected your right and you can now enforce it. And the last image here, you are able to now monetize that IP because you are able to do all this process that you can now monetize it. So that brings us to the type of intellectual property. But because we're talking about IP and business, I'll be limiting it to just 3 things actually, which is copyright, trademark, and trade secret. However, when we say business, the term business is very expansive. So it depends on the business you are doing. Let's say, for example, your business is probably a business of innovation. That means patent is going to work for you. If your business is just entrepreneurship, you are not inventing anything, you are just selling, buying and selling, offering services, then copyright and trademark will be best for you. So in this instance, I'm going to assume that we are entrepreneurs, right? We are not inventing. So we are going to limit the discussion to copyright, trademark, and trade secrets. So what we have here, you see this book with chains, that's copyright. Copyright protect literary and artistic works. And we can see this logo here, C and C, that's channel. Copyright, that's trademark to identify your goods and services and distinguish your brand from other competitors. I can see here something like belt and chain, that's research. Patent. Patent is all about invention. It protects a new way of doing something. Then we can see this beautiful chair here, just design, that's industrial design technically. And you can see this last picture here telling you to keep quiet. That's a trade secret. So all you have to do with trade secrets is to keep quiet about it. And if you need to share that information, you have to like have a confidentiality agreement or a non-compete clause in place. So trademark, trade secrets, and copyright. I know I don't have time, so I might just be able to touch on trademark. So trademark, what is trademark? Criteria for trademarkability, what can be trademarked, difference between TM, SM, and R, trademark registration in Nigeria, and benefit of trademark registration. Now, what is trademark? Trademark is any sign capable of distinguishing the products and services of one enterprise from that of other enterprises. So let me ask you, when you see the logo, Jiipcc, what comes to your mind? You really don't have to know Mrs. Juliana before you can say Jiipcc is meant for Juliana. Or when you just see Jiipcc, oh, Jiipcc, I think it's about IP and consultation, and that's all. So seeing that brand gives you an idea of what that brand does. The moment your brand is not able to identify and distinguish your business, then it's no longer a trademark. So now, criteria for trademarkability. This brings us back to the business aspect of the brand aspect of your business. Now you are into a business. You don't just pick up any name just like that. A business that you feel like in future you have that possibility of trademarking and getting value from. That means the business name you are going to choose has to be distinctive. Distinctive in the sense that it is not descriptive, it is not deceptive, it is not against public morality, and it is not generic. Because if you pick a name that is against what we have here, you won't be able to trademark that name. And what this means is that in future, probably you have to rebrand. So you have to pick a name that, you know, this name in future, I'll be able to trademark it and probably get value for it in future. So while picking a name, don't pick a name that says maybe luxury wears, or luxury by Modupe, or luxury by Mona. Luxury is a generic term. You can't lay claim to luxury. So you only have Modupe or Mona or wears left. And don't pick names that is going to be very limiting. Look at Apple, for example. Apple, we know Apple is supposed to be for fruit, but Apple is in line of technology. I mean, that's very distinctive. And the thing about it is they can decide to go into or venture into any type of business, except the business of fruit, actually, and they are still going to sell. So while picking a business name, also think about your trademark. That way you'll be able to pick a name that is going to pass for trademark registration as well. Then another thing for IP for business is when you have now selected your business name, you need to do like probably a CSC search to make sure that that business name is available. While doing that, do a trademark search as well to make sure that that trademark name is also available. While doing that, check for your social media handle, check for your domain name, so that you don't have one available and the other not available. Like all of these things have to go hand in hand, because most of the mistake we make is we secure our brand name with CAC, and in the long run, your trademark or your brand name has been trademarked by somebody else bought the domain name, the social media handle has been taken by somebody else, and you're just limited to only your CAC registration. So you want to put that in mind as well. It's not just IP. So now what can be trademarked? You can trademark your name, symbol, logo, color, slogan. For example, I have the name Coca-Cola. The shape of the Coca-Cola bottle can be trademarked, although it's supposed to fall under industrial design. Now, another thing I'm going to say now is industrial design and trademark, they work hand in hand. Copyright and patent, they work hand in hand somehow with software. Now, industrial design protects shape. Trademark also has the ability to protect shape. Now, you want to look at the longevity. What is the protection period? Trademark, if you protect your trademark and you maintain it and use it, you can have it like for till infinity. But industrial design protection ends after 15 years. So you want to look at your type of business and the type of IP protection that actually works with your business. Should you do trademark? Should you do industrial design? So see, for example, Coca-Cola has a trademark for the shape, and they have trade secrets for their recipe, not patent, because patent lasts for 20 years. So if Coca-Cola had actually done a patent protection, it means after 20 years of protection, their trade secrets, which is their recipe, will be out by now and available for everybody to use. So you want to look at the type of IP protection that actually work with your business structure and plan and your business overall. So slogan, I'm loving it. You can protect that, your symbol, your color, you can protect all of that as trademark. Then the difference between TM, SM, and R, the previous speaker spoke about trademark classes, and yes, we have 45 trademark classes. Class 1 to class 34 protects goods. Class 35 to class 45 protects services. So you have to know the aspects your business is focusing on. Are you focusing on products? Are you focusing on services? Or even if you're focusing on products, do you foresee yourself in future going into the service aspect of it? For example, you are into business of tech and you sell products. Now, for a tech person that sells products, you should be looking at class 9. But maybe in future, you tend to like look into the service aspect of tech, which is class 42. So you have to look at protecting it in class 9 and class 42, because those classes work hand in hand. One is for good, one is for services. So those things are very important. Know your trademark classes. Don't register your trademark in the wrong class. You can't be doing education and register your trademark in trademark for cosmetics. Like, it doesn't work that way, because you are only protected in the class you are registered in. So TM is for unregistered trademark. That's trademark that are not registered with the FMITI, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. SM is used by services. You provide services, so you use SM, which is service mark. However, this R registered sign will work for both registered service mark and registered trademark. Once they are registered and you have your certification certificates, you can't use R without having your trademark certificates. If you are given only acceptance letter, the least you can do is use TM or use SM, showing that, okay, I'm in the process of registration, or I intend to register this mark. But it doesn't guarantee you to tell people that don't register it. No, it doesn't give you any guarantee. It's just to say, I intend to register it. Then registration of trademark. Now, when you want to do your trademark registration, like I said, it's compulsory for you to do a trademark search. Because when you don't do a trademark search, you won't know if that trademark is available or not. And during the publication stage, you might face opposition from those people that their trademark is very similar to yours. So the phase, you have to do a search. From search, you get an acknowledgement letter. After that, you get an acceptance letter. Then in some months' time, you get, when your mark has been published, you publish in the trademark journal, then people can oppose if your mark is similar or they have anything to do with your mark, they don't want to be registered. And from there, you get your certificate. So this is just basically the process of trademark registration in Nigeria. But it's not as simple as it seems anyway. Then what's the benefit of trademark? You have exclusivity. You tend to get ownership. You can monopolize the market. You have brand identity. You have competitive edge and your product differentiation. People can differentiate your product from that of others in the industry. So I think that's all about trademark. So this is just a guessing game. So we have this following brand. There's this particular one with blue color. We have this orange and red interlocking. We have this car design and we have these jumping cats. So you can just drop it in the chat box anyway. Can you identify the brands? Then we move to copyright. Do I still have time? Hussein?
Yes, you still have let's say 5 minutes.
Okay, so let's move to copyright briefly. Copyright is a type of intellectual property that protects original work of authorship fixed in a medium. Now, I want us to take note of two things: fixation and originality. Copyright only protects a work that is original and fixed. If your work is fixed and is not original, you can't have copyright protection. If your work is original and not fixed, you can't have copyright protection. Your work has to be original and fixed before you can enjoy copyright protection. And one thing I want us to know is that copyright exists automatically the moment you create and fix your work in a medium. You necessarily don't have to register your copyright or notify NCC. You don't. However, it is advisable to do that in case of infringement so you can prove ownership. But copyright exists automatically, and you don't need a copyright notice before you can prove that you need ownership. As long as you've created it, the copyright exists automatically. So criteria for protection, like I said, originality and fixation, that's very important. Then what can be copyrighted? We have sound recording, we have literary works, musical work, artistic work, broadcast, and audiovisual works. Those can be protected under copyright. Types of copyright. Copyright gives you economic rights and moral rights. Like I said earlier, if you are venturing into intellectual property, there are two things involved. It's that you have an economic right or you have a moral right. Which one do you want to go with? Are you going with the aspect of you monetizing your work, or you just want to have your work out there? So copyright gives you those rights, economic and moral rights. Economic rights is the right that you can make money from. Moral rights is just a right of attribution or acknowledgement. People cannot use your work in a way that you don't like. That's moral right. And copyright lasts for throughout the lifetime of the owner, plus 70 years after the death of the owner. That's in Nigeria. Now, it is dependent on each jurisdiction. There are some jurisdictions, the copyright law higher, while some is lower. For moral rights, the same protection period for economic rights and moral rights. So what right do you have under copyright? You have your reproduction rights, your distribution rights, translation rights, adaptation rights, performance rights, and broadcasting rights under copyright. Now, authorship versus ownership, that's another issue people don't get to understand. The fact that you authored a work doesn't mean you own it, because there are some instances whereby as an author, you might have transferred your right to somebody else. So the person you are transferring your right to becomes the owner while you are the author. So most times the author might not be the owner. And in some cases, the author actually is the owner. So you have to understand the difference between authorship and ownership. So in business, let's say you are a business owner, then you need a logo for your brand. You gave out the work to a logo brand designer, and the author and the brand designer came up with the logo for you, and you paid. Then on the long run, probably the brand designer is now suing you, saying you are using the logo without permission. You're like, boy, I paid. Unfortunately, yes, you paid, but payment doesn't guarantee ownership. As long as there is no transfer of ownership agreement stating that that person or that brand designer has transferred the ownership of that logo to you, the ownership still remains with the brand designer. So as a business owner, you want to put all of this in place so that your brand designer or your photographer doesn't end up suing you for copyright infringement. So period of protection, trademark indefinitely, as long as you keep renewing it and maintaining it and using it. Copyright throughout the lifetime of the author and 70 years after the death. I would like to mention that for sound recording, for photograph, for cinematograph, is just 50 years from when the work was created. Patent is 20 years, industrial design is 15 years. There's the symbol, copyright, unregistered trademark, service mark, and registered trademark. So the last one, trade secrets, it has to do with contract and agreements. You can't register trade secrets. The best thing you can do is to have in place contracts, probably a non-disclosure agreement or a non-compete clause or any other measure that can protect your trade secrets. And trade secrets is that confidential information that gives you a competitive edge over your competitors. So you have to keep them secret. So I'm going to stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amusa, for that wonderful PowerPoint presentation you shared, and also for presenting so wonderfully. I'll be giving the floor to our next mentor, Mr. Sand Mba, to give us his own view on the topic before we move on to our mentees.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm
Mr.
here.
Sand Mba.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay, let me just stop my video, but I'm going to turn it off back because I'm not in the best place, and I must apologize for this conflict of time and being on the road and pulling over and trying to respond to you. I respect this opportunity and I respect every mentee. Please don't take it on me. Forgive me in this one, even why I might not be my best at this point, but I think I can make it up in the subsequent presentation. I want to comment the last speaker, mentor, for that elaborate presentation. That was really detailed, and the simplicity was what even caught my attention. In the simple terms where she explained what intellectual property is and how it's going to help businesses. This is the intellectual property business. I work in the trade ecosystem. So trade ecosystem, that means international trade. There is no international trade, in my view, without intellectual property. When there is international trade, there's intellectual property. That means there is wealth creation for the exporter of that intellectual property or the seller. That means your product is your product and it's unique from every other product. Why did I say this? I say this in reference to what Africa is going through. Africa is the net exporter of all manner of product that exist in this world. But how do they export? They export the raw material without protecting intellectual property. For example, cocoa that is made from chocolate is exported from Africa. Shea butter that is made for cosmetic, pharmaceutical is exported from Africa, but there is no intellectual property component of it because we export it as generic products. So the wealth doesn't come back to the owner, the original owner of the product. So intellectual property for business is giving exclusive right for the owner. I'm sorry. The last speaker talked about copy. Immediately a product is, when you copyright, when you create a product, content is already a copyright product. But when you go the extra mile of protecting it, it gives you that edge. Ownership versus the creator of idea is two different things. Who has an idea? Who created it? Cocoa is manufactured from Africa, but who add value to that cocoa, make it distinct, is this different thing. So that means for intellectual property for business, intellectual property is key for a business to sustain itself. Even in services, I suppose most of us on this platform are lawyers. So what we do is mostly services. But I will advise that while you want to practice your law, even when you're going to practice in the area of intellectual property, let yours be distinct. There are lawyers, if you look, I don't want to mention name, law firms in Nigeria where when you mention name, people say, oh, these ones, we know them. They trademark most of their names. So you know when they create product. Law service is not about just law service. There are products you can create from law service and protect it, where it becomes your exclusive right, and you can then leverage on that. Morality and economic value of intellectual property is two different things. But I believe for you to sustain, and there are a lot of, before now, there are a lot of musicians in Africa that grew up and died poor. They did fantastic music because they were singing and doing music out of moral, out of love, but they didn't think about the economic part, so they didn't protect it. At the end of the day, they didn't get the economic value and they were able to sustain it. So whatever we are doing for business, we should consider intellectual property is key, because this gives us the right to use the right. This gives us ability also to enforce the right that we have protected. Enforcement, again, is a different thing, because you must have resources to enforce. And you must have that, for you to have ability to enforce, you must have it registered and documented and have the ability to monitor infringement. So, knowing fully well that right is not forever, as startup, as people that wants to go into business, services, it might be company secretaries, you must understand what is it that will benefit you in the immediate and the long run. Some intellectual property is not necessary, because when you would end up fighting over issues and not get the right exclusive for yourself, even when you scale to registering it. For example, someone mentioned, I think it was the last presenter, talked about Apple. Apple is okay to be protected, because Apple is what Apple is today, because over the years, they've gotten investors to put in resources into them. In the first instance, when someone talks about Apple, you don't talk about Apple phone before Apple phone came. But Apple phone was able to generate enough investment in the initial stage to be able to scale up and be able to advance in their innovation and use marketing to be able to sell it to people and people appreciate. So if you are a new startup, I would not advise you to go to the first one and go and register something that is near generic. Register something that is unique. But for you to benefit from it, you must invest in marketing that IP right that you have protected. If you have an IP like trademark, copyright, they say, oh, I have gotten it and money will come. No, it doesn't work that way. You must back it up with advertisement, marketing strategy, and the value for the people that will benefit from it. And over time, you are then known. And if you then want to then enforce, you have resources to enforce it. There are a lot of products and services that have intellectual property, but they are not of market value. So instead of you saying, I want to protect it, but sell your product, but you can also leverage on trade secrets. Now, I've talked about intellectual property. I've talked about the exclusivity of intellectual property and why it's necessary for business, because if you make your product generic, you might not get value for it. I mentioned of Africa's exporting cocoa and not getting value for it because it's commodity. So now I'm trying to mention, when you then protect this product, you have to market it for you to get economic value. For you to enforce, you need resources, financial resources from the product you protected for you to be able to effectively enforce. I've also talked about you not just rushing into protecting intellectual property because you're just trademarking a name, because you think it will bring in value for you without you supporting the marketing. So all this goes to show that it is not one jacket fits all with intellectual property when it comes to business. Because it's not one jacket fit all. You must understand your own niche through market research. So by understanding your own niche, it gives you that leverage that you would then use to gain economic value. So today I've heard about trademark. I'm more of other intellectual property, other different components of intellectual property. I dwell more on geographical indications. Even why, I don't know if anybody has done, because I even joined it, if anyone has made presentation on geographical indication. Geographical indication is that one area where it will cure so many things, deficiency Africa has, because you don't need to really reinvent the wheel. Most times it's what nature has given to us. For example, Ghana cocoa is different from Cote d'Ivoire cocoa. Nigerian shea butter from Niger State is different from Nigerian and shea butter from Kwara State. These are potential products of geographical indication, but most times the other two, there are a lot of aspects of intellectual property that's individual based. But something like geographical indication is communal based, it's not individual based. And again, because it's not individual based, communal based, it's nature or generational driven. What I mean by this is this. For a product to qualify as geographical indication product and qualify to be certified geographical indication, it must derive its distinctiveness. Hello? Hello,
We can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
We can hear you.
So it has to derive its distinctiveness from the soil, from the traditional way of doing things, which most time must be passed from generation to generation, and it must be linked to a geographical location. So currently, we are trying to get a bill passed that will ensure geographical indication is recognized in our law. One aspect that is difficult for geographical indication to be recognized in our law, even in trademark does not acquit right to a geographical name. That's why Champagne, which is a success story of geographical indication, cannot be registered in Nigeria. What Champagne community does in terms of enforcement, ensuring that nobody infringe on their rights in Nigeria, is to use that countermeasure of attack, defense. Because in law here, as a known brand, in law in Nigeria, you can do Champagne as a drink and sell it. They also use international protocol to drive the enforcement of GI product for Champagne in Nigeria. Because over the years, they've recognized Champagne has been recognized as coming from France, a location in France is a GI product. But because Nigeria does not have that legal framework, we cannot really protect anything called GI in Nigeria. So if the law is passed, then we can be able to protect our traditional knowledge, the process that have been handed over to us over the years, and economically benefit from it. I personally believe that anything that is going to be sustainable has to have economic undertone. It doesn't matter how small the economic value is. If it doesn't have economic value, it will not be sustainable in the long run, and it will die over time. Examples abound. I have thousands of one examples that I can use to substantiate this my claim. In my earlier submission, I talked about musicians doing so well, but they die poor. And when they die, maybe their grandchildren start picking up from where they stop, especially African musicians, because they did not intellectually protect their product. In Africa, under geographical indication, you see products, you see community that has very unique product that you cannot get any other place. But yet, that community die of poverty because there is no legal framework for them to economically benefit from this product that is from them. So when I talk about commodity export, which is not protected, and Africa is remain poor based on cocoa because cocoa is gotten everywhere. But if you have geographical indication, for example, for cocoa, for shea butter, the community have intellectual property right for that cocoa. So the cocoa is not price is not determined by someone else. So in business, exclusivity is about you determine the price you sell your product. For cocoa or shea butter, some other people determine the price they sell this product because it's generic. And because we have over the years neglected the most important thing that's called intellectual property when it comes to doing businesses. So that's why most African businesses don't grow beyond 20 years, 30 years, they're off. But if you look at businesses that have survived over the years, they protected their intellectual property and they've marketed it and ensured that people still benefit from it and as well appreciate it. Coca-Cola is a classical example. All manner of things are trademark, protected, even the trade secret and everything is protected all around. And they keep on buying some stuff. If you still have a new product that comes in, Coca-Cola buys over and use all manner of trademark, intellectual property to protect it. So it keeps the business going. My final submission is this. Intellectual property and business is very important. You cannot divorce both. Although intellectual property also have its own negative parts because it stifles innovation, that exclusivity. For example, when I talked about trademarking a name or stuff, it doesn't encourage other people to be, it doesn't create that balance in terms of economic value. People have talked about why is Africa poor? Because Africa cannot, so many things have been trademarked, copyright, have been protected using intellectual property tools. So Africa cannot really, when it comes to international, people say, no, you can't do this anymore because someone has already trademarked it. And so where is Africa in all this? We have this, our idea in ourselves. We have all this. You can imagine sometime last year, Sorosoke was heavily criticized online because someone in UK has gone ahead to trademark, to protect the name and wrote a book on Sorosoke. And people that say generated is Sorosoke stuff, it is our right, it's our intellectual property. Why are you taking it? If you deep, most of the African intellectual property intellectual property generated assets have been trademarked other places. So when you go international, they'll tell you can't do this because someone else has I've already trademarked it. So the best way to start is this: as business, business and intellectual property we cannot divorce two. There are negative parts of intellectual property which I say stifles innovation. However, for that to be taken care of in the long run, Africa need to have policies in place that are renewable, maybe after 5 years, 10 years, that help to protect intellectual property. By so doing, Africa businesses, Africa service providers can be able to compete favorably with their partners across the globe. I hope, even while I'm not too coordinated, been able to make some points and shared my thoughts on why intellectual property and business is important, especially for young people trying to build a career in law or in the field of intellectual property. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sand. I don't know if you can all hear me. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Mr. Sand, for that wonderful overview on the topic and also giving us the international perspective of protecting our intellectual property rights. And thank you very much to our previous mentors, Ms. Amusa and also Ms. Christian. Before we'll be taking our mentees presentation, I would urge everyone to put on their videos and smile for the camera while I'm taking few screenshots for our LinkedIn posts. And thank you very much. As you do so, I'll be doing this within the next 60 seconds. And we can smile for the camera while turning on our videos. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I can see our beautiful faces and our handsome faces. Thank you very much for everyone that's smiling. All right. I'm sorry I couldn't capture most of our mentors on the call. But, right. Thank you. So we'll be taking our mentees presentation, and we have two groups. We'll start with group one. I hope group one's presenter is ready. Kindly know that you have 10 minutes to quickly brief through your PowerPoint presentation, while you are also allowed to share your slides on the screen.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm about doing that now. Just a few minutes. Okay.
The presenter for group one, it seems you are not ready yet. Or
No, I'm ready.
are you
I'm just trying to round off some. I'm trying to use my system to connect to use to do the presentation, but I'm quite ready.
I think someone is sharing the screen on your behalf, so you can just start.
There is a little bit of delay.
For the person sharing the screen, kindly note that we can't see the PowerPoint presentation on your screen yet.
Please, sorry. Sorry, is it up now?
Yes, we can see your screen now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry. All right. My name is Chiwendu Onuchebe. I'm the presenter for the intellectual property group on intellectual property. Yes. Okay. So, I'm trying to slant, but I'm having difficulty doing that. So
yeah, we can see your screen clearly, so you can just move on.
Okay.
Because of time.
Okay, sir. So the first thing we're going to be looking at, we'll be looking at what a patent is. We'll be looking at trademark, why do business persons register their patents and trademarks, IP licensing, and IP export, and we'll finally conclude. So basically on the definition of what a patent is, a patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention. So basically, when a person creates a particular innovation, whatever it is, a patent is gotten to protect that particular invention. For instance, if a person makes or creates a camera, I think in those days when the Canon camera was still there, for the owner or the creator of that particular product to have exclusive rights and to exclude other persons from infringing or copying or selling his idea of his product, a patent is gotten to secure that particular right or product. So that's what a trademark is. And so a trademark is an intellectual property consisting of a recognizable sign, design, or an expression that identifies a product or service from a particular source and distinguishes them from others. So basically, when a business owner, a person running a business, you have their business names, they can have their logos that will enable you to identify them to a particular product, for example, Nike or Google or Domino's. So these particular signs or letters or words distinguishes these businesses from other businesses. So once you see them, or once you see these logos, it tells you, oh, this particular logo belongs to Nike, especially when you see the Nike swoosh sign. So basically, a trademark is gotten to secure that particular sign or design. So if you fail to do so, there will be a problem with that. So we'll just look at why business persons register their patents. So we said here that patents provide incentives to individuals by offering them recognition for their creativity, material rewards. So basically, once you obtain a patent to your creation or your innovation, it gives you the exclusive right to monetize what you have made, to make money out of what you have made, to sell and to people. So you as a person, as the owner of that particular work of innovation, you're entitled to market it and get your revenue from it. So examples of businesses with registered patents, like we have earlier said, we talked about Google, we talked about the Canon camera, we talked about the Apple. We see brand names like Apple, McDonald's, where we know that Apple, when it comes to devices, yes, Apple has been able to secure that name, Apple. So whatever creation or whatever device that they make, individuals are not allowed to copy their idea, because so far they've been able to protect that particular innovation that they have made. We know as well McDonald's, kitchen, McDonald's products, Dolce and Gabbana. So clothing that come from Dolce and Gabbana, they are patented. So nobody can copy even the name of Dolce and Gabbana, because those names have been trademarked, they have been patented as well. Examples of businesses that did not register. Sorry, this is a mistake. Businesses that did not register and lost revenue. So there are examples of businesses that have lost revenue due to not registering their patents. For example, in the 1980s, Polaroid failed to register their instant camera technology. And because of that, companies copied their idea. Back then, we had the Polaroid camera, the instant camera that once you snap, you get your photos immediately. But due to the fact that Polaroid did not register or get a patent for that idea, able to and get your pictures in an instant, people copied this idea. Now they cannot lay claims to, they cannot lay exclusive claims or rights to the camera. We also saw the Wright brothers that invented the airplane. Now we see airplanes, people copying the same design of how an airplane looks and all of that. So they did not protect, they did not get a patent to protect that innovation, the idea of having an airplane. People now are able to copy and get profits from that design. So why do business persons register trademarks? As we have earlier said, one of the major things that trademarking does is that it grants you exclusivity to use, to sell, to distribute your products, and for people to people, and to make money from it. So nobody can infringe on it, nobody can copy your product, nobody can copy your logo as a business owner, nobody can copy your logo or infringe on it where your logos or your business name has been registered or trademarked. So when a person does that, you have the local standing to sue. You can bring an action for that. So examples of businesses to register trademarks, we've mentioned Google, Apple, Microsoft, and so many other companies have been able, Coca-Cola as well, have been able to trademark their business names, their logos. So also examples of businesses that were not able to, that did not register their trademarks and lost revenue. One of the major companies or business names or business that failed to register their business name is the WWE Entertainment. That's the World Wrestling Entertainment, which we know today. Formerly, they were referred to as the World Wrestling Federation, the WWF. But that name, the abbreviation, kind of conflicted with another name known as the World Wildlife Fund. And so at the end of the day, this other company was able to trademark that name and saw that WWF, this World Wrestling Federation, which we now know today as WWE, was infringing on their name. So because these other guys were able to trademark their name before WWE did, WWE, which was formerly known as the World Wrestling Federation, lost that abbreviation, lost that name, and they had to get a new name. So they lost a lot of millions in rebranding digitally. So I don't know if you're all here with me, please.
Yes, we can all hear you.
Okay. All right. So we'll be looking at IP licensing. IP licensing is an agreement between IP owners and other parties that allows other parties to use the former's intangible assets for price. So as we have earlier said, one of the basic things about registering or trademarking or patenting your product or your intellectual property is to exclude any other person from using it or from infringing it without your consent. So basically, IP licensing allows you, the licensee, to use my products, but only when I have allowed you to do so. So basically, once I grant you the license, the permission to use my intellectual property, you do so for a price, and that is a royalty. So you'll be remitting royalties to me while you use my product, while you use my intellectual property. And so how can IP be licensed? So basically, you have to find out the kind of intellectual property you wish to use. We have our mentors for today spoke about the different intellectual property that we have, copywriting, and trademark, patent, and all of that. So you have to identify which of the intellectual properties you want to grant a licensee the permission to use. So after that, you communicate with the licensee. There will be a negotiation of the license agreement. There will also be a draft of the agreement so that both parties will determine the terms on which such intellectual property will be used. Both parties will have to fulfill their obligation. And number 6, we talked about monitoring of the use of the licensed intellectual property. So I think our second mentor talked about policing of your intellectual property. So we all have that duty to look out for our product to ensure that anyone who is being licensed to use our intellectual property does not exceed beyond the boundaries given to them to use it and to make money from it. So, to IP franchising. So IP franchising is an agreement by the owner of a business system with a bundle of intellectual property rights, agrees to grant to the franchisee the right to operate the business in the franchisee's territory. So basically, what goes on here is that the franchisor, who is the owner of an intellectual property, say for instance, let's say for instance, Coca-Cola may agree that, okay, someone here or someone within the country where it's based can carry out or can sell its products just within the territory where that person is residing. So you are allowed or given the right to make money or use my business or use my business name or trade on my business, my intellectual property within the place where you reside. So there is usually an agreement between these parties, the franchisor, who is the owner of the intellectual property, franchisee. So there's an agreement, and then the training of the franchisee, people who you intend to work with you to use or to use your business name within their territory. So you're going to train them, and you're also going to as well monitor how they are using your name, how they are using your brand, how they are using your innovation. And at the end of the day, you're entitled to collect your fees and royalties. So examples of such businesses that granted IP franchising, you see McDonald's. McDonald's is a well-known brand, which we know, and it was able to franchise or grant franchise to lots of people around the world. So anywhere you go to, you see that you may have McDonald's product food right in your country, even though the owners are not really present there. So that's about that. So intellectual property can also be exported in different ways. Basically, what this is talking about here is granting you, where the owner of an intellectual property grants you the right to export, that is send out to market their products in foreign countries. So this one is not just limited to where you are, to where the licensee or the franchisee resides of his territory, but it extends to him being able to send out his products out to other countries, and being able to make money from it. Usually there is an understanding that is expected to be had between the franchisor and the franchisee, or the licensee. So intellectual property is important, the regulations of target countries. So if you want to send out your product, your creation, your invention to another
Sorry to
country.
interrupt. Your time is up, so I think you should conclude.
Okay, I'm
So,
already done. So in conclusion, patents and trademarks are essential tools that helps us to that grants us exclusivity, that grants protects our exclusivity, and protects our recognition as well. So as a business owner, it's very important that we protect the product of our mind to enable us to make money out of it to the exclusion of any other person. Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Chuwendu, for that presentation, that detailed presentation on behalf of your group. And kudos to all the group members. I'm calling on the next presenter to quickly make your presentation. Kindly note that you have 10 minutes, so work with the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I would love to share my screen now. Can the current person sharing the screen to enable me share my screen? All right, thank you. Okay. Okay.
We still can't see your screen. You can just start your presentation while you are trying to share your screen.
All right. Okay. So we're basically, thank you so much. We're talking on intellectual property for business, right? And the things we are going to be considering. I don't know if you just confirm with me when you can see my screen, but I'll just continue presenting. I'm basically we're talking of intellectual property for businesses, and the things we're looking at are we're going to be considering what copyright entails, what industrial designs entails, and protection of copyrighted rights. We also need to look at what's actually the need, what's the importance of protecting industrial designs, and then consider the concept of intellectual property management, look at what is assessment of IP rights, and at the end of it, we'll look at the end, trade secret and confidential information. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen.
All right, thank you so much for that. Okay, so right into it. Basically, copyright is, like as has been said, it's a type of intellectual property right. It's an intellectual property right, and it's basically meant to protect owners or probably authors of a limited period of time. In Nigeria, it lasts for a period of 70 years. And now, because it is usually related, unlike what we will be seeing later as industrial design, copyright is for those that are authors. And it's usually advised when we talk about copyright, you protect the expression of the idea and not just the idea itself. So, right, when you have written a book, you copy. Example of things you can that can copyright or materials that can be included or protected by copyright are stuff such as literary work, artistic work, musical work, and films, sound recording, broadcast, and all of that. So what you essentially do is to protect the expression of that idea, not the idea itself. And generally, the general rule is that people are not to use a person's copyright or a registered work, incorporated work without the person's consent, without the person's license. However, there are some exceptions. Among them are probably for educational purposes or probably for academic.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you for a while.
Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear? All right, thank you so much. So in Nigeria, the copyright is essentially protected by the Copyright Act. So the next thing we'll be considering is what then is industrial design. Industrial design also is kind of a form of intellectual property. Is a form of intellectual property that intellectual property right, and this time is just to protect the outlook. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is to protect the outlook or probably the designs of a product that is produced in massively produced. Basically, is the ornamental aspect of a product, the outlook of that product, right? So industrial designs is expected to protect that initiative, that creative idea of a person. Unlike copyright, industrial design is meant to protect that, to protect the outlook. Is an innovation. It's not a creation of an idea, right? And so when we talk about industrial designs, we're looking at probably logos, appearance, like designs of products. So let's say people like persons, diverse, several companies have their logos. People have what they are known for, and those things are actually, they are probably trademarks. These things are all protected within the industrial designs. They are patents. They actually an aspect of patents. In Nigeria, it's protected under the Patent and Designs Act 2011. So the next thing we look at is then, what's the essence of protecting copyrighted works? Why do you need or care about protecting them? Basically, it's essential that these rights are protected because we're looking at intellectual property and business. When these rights are not copyrighted, you don't have the right. You own no rights. That individual, who probably may even be the author, owns no right over them. There's no other way of proving ownership of such particular work except they are being actually incorporated. And again, it serves you that it gives you exclusive right over that particular work, right? So any owner who has incorporated his work owns exclusive right over that particular work and has the ability to probably license people to use it, and is a source of making revenue, is a source of posterity to that business that has its work, or probably an individual that has his work incorporated, will now be able to gift out to individuals, probably individuals that want to make use of any of those incorporated work, probably for any commercial purposes. Such individuals will have to refer back to them, pay them an amount of money before they can use them. So essentially, that is the essence of protecting your work. And when it's not protected, you don't own that work. So we have presented two instances here, right? One is an instance of where a person registered his copyright and what he benefited for it. So we have Mr. Oluwabami Elosorun, right? He published a book on Amazon. The title of the book is Comprehensive Guide to Freelancing, and he published it on Amazon, and that's like a public space. But someone who wanted to a third party wanted to make use of that particular work, Amazon had to contact him, and he reached an agreement with that individual, and he financially benefited from it. Why? That's because his work is copyrighted, right? But if he had not done that, then he would not have any basis to claim or to lay hold on any other individual who is making use of that his work. The other example is Mr. Chukwebu Abuago. He actually has some work published on several social media handles, and persons took this work, used them, and not just used them, they even claimed ownership over it. So you find out that this person, and the problem here is that these individuals who even use them and claim ownership over them could actually go on to
incorporate them in their own name. So this particular person is not able to prove either to the court or even to the public that this is actually his work. So I've seen a lot of individuals who come to the social media claiming that this was my work, I first brought it, I first published it and all of that, and they feel that their intellectual property is being stolen. So the next thing we are looking at is what's the essence, what's the importance of protecting industrial design. Actually, the importance of all this, both industrial design and copyright, are actually interlinked. So one among them, just as I've discussed before, is the issue of exclusive rights, right? So once you have either you have registered your exclusive that particular design, you have the powers to probably any person you see that is using probably your logo, your icon, your trademark, which you have registered, then you can institute an action to go to court, because they know that if they go to court, they will pay hugely in damages. So most times you reach an agreement and then they can't do that. And when they do it, they have to pay you in damages. And again, it's actually a way of selling the business, because when we know that this is the logo, this is the icon of this particular business or the other, it helps in selling the business over generations or time immemorial. And it's a means of, obviously it's a means of marketing. That's just what I explained. It's a means of generation of revenue. Next, an example, we also brought a graphics, and in all her printers, she got a particular logo in all, a graphic designer, and she's also she has what's it called? She saw her logo. She does graphics, print them out, things like clothing, print them out, books, print them out. Anything that is her work has her logo on it. Then when she saw her logo being used by another person, she approached that individual and they had to go for a settlement, because that person knows he was going to lose in court. And this individual, she earned financially. Why? Because her work is incorporated, right? It's not incorporated, sorry, it's registered. Her patent, her design patent is registered. Next person who did not register is Mr. Godwin Chibuzo. This person has his own special logo, which is printed. He's owns a tailoring shop and has a special logo. And this time he has this reputation or business name that persons think that clothes coming from his store usually has this logo. But other individuals use this same logo, and he could not do anything because he had not registered. He had not patented these things. He had not gone to register it according to the requirements of law. And however, before you can register your business idea, your industrial designs, there are certain requirements. There's always that requirement of originality in your design. There's that requirement of newness in that design you're bringing. There's that requirement of creativity. So you don't just come to copy someone's work, and there's something an additional that you must have done in that design. Sorry. Okay. So
sorry to interrupt.
Next into it.
You should round up now.
Okay, I'm looking at management of intellectual property. Okay, is my time up?
The time is up, but just round up, just conclude.
All right, thank you so much. I was going to talk about management of intellectual property. Essentially, just basically in a nutshell, what we mean by management of intellectual property is that even though you have incorporated, you have actually registered your copyright or your intellectual property right, it doesn't end there. You have to manage it. You have to handle it in such a way, project it so that you earn profit from it. You have to ensure that you develop it and properly utilize those assets for it to be beneficial to you, right? Again, we would have the next thing we would have looked at is valuation of property, of intellectual property assets. So when you have an intellectual IP asset, how do we value the what's the value to be attached to it? It's important you know the value so that when you are doing that granting license, probably a merger or things like that, you know what cost or probably what value to attach to it. So in conclusion, we want to say that protection of intellectual property a property right is actually very important. And one of those means is that it gives you, it
I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if you can still hear the presenter, but your time is up already. So thank you very much for that presentation. We'll be moving on to the question and answer session. I also encourage our mentees on the call to raise their hand if they have any live questions for our mentors on the call. While you raise your hand, I'll just call on you to say your question, or just send your question to the chat box. Either of them works. So I'll be taking the questions that were sent to me before the session started. Okay, the first question says, what rights are necessary to achieve IP license goals? This question is directed to Ms. Amosa Shukrat.
Please, can you come again, Uzin?
Okay, the question is, what rights are necessary to achieve IP license rules?
Well, do you rights for licensing?
Do you get that? Yes.
Right for licensing, right? Okay. What rights are necessary to achieve IP license goals? Well, the right is still your IP rights, because without IP rights, you can't license. You can't license what you don't have ownership to, right? So the first thing you have to do is own the IP. Own the IP. When you own the IP, then you can now decide if you want to do exclusive licensing, non-exclusive licensing, cross licensing, sole licensing, or whatever.
Okay, I hope that, thank you very much, Ms. Amusa. The next question I'll be taking will be for Mr. Sand Umba Kalu, which is the mentee is asking that we are not able to fully understand IP exports. What is IP export and how does it affect business and individuals? Mr. Sand, if you are still on the call, the question is for you.
Okay, so thank you very much for the two groups for the presentations. So the question is exporting or understanding IP exports. So as I said in my opening statement earlier on, how it affects businesses. I strongly believe that there is no export without IP. If you export and you don't have intellectual property backing it, it becomes generic and commodity. You get less value for it. So IP export is generating more revenue. IP export is knowledge transfer. So knowledge transfer is that you facilitate this by ensuring that anyone across the border that uses your idea is paid for it. So, and this is not just any idea. It must be innovative ideas. It must be, if it's technology, it must be a process, a product that people benefit from. Samsung, you can't use Samsung, almost all phones are IP exports. So all phones, because every part of those iPhones have been either patent, trademark, and even copyright, the design and everything. So IP export, the effect it has on business is more revenue for the business. It's knowledge transfer. It's also helped, IP exports also enable business to expand into new market beyond their market. So, and keep that expansion going. Because you cannot, for example, come and create Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola has not gotten to, or Coca-Cola is selling your market, and you said, because Coca-Cola is already covered, have already trademarked their name, taking a lot of intellectual property components for themselves. So you cannot. So IP export is market expansion. It also gives you competitive edge over your competitors. IP export also creates jobs because it helps you in a way as a business to keep back. So this is what I call economic diplomacy for a country to support. Okay, countries go to war. I don't want to go into a lot of technical areas. Countries go to war because of IP, because of an infringement on the intellectual property of a home country business. So countries engage other countries, negotiate with other countries, discuss with other countries. The trade war between America and China is IP really, because America feels China is taking the intellectual property right of most American companies and utilizing it without the country getting it back. So IP export, the effect of business is more revenue, market expansion, knowledge transfer, collaboration, because the last speaker was talking about merger and acquisition. You must get to a level before you merge. When you get to a level where you want to merge, you must value your IP asset. But as I said earlier on, IP itself is not in isolation from other things that will help your business grow. So don't be carried away that when I created this intellectual property, I become the owner. When I export and my product, if it's not known, you don't market it, you don't get that value. However, it is still very important. So I'm saying this in order to contextualize all what we need to know about IP and export. So yeah, so it creates a lot of opportunity, really, for businesses when they export their IP. I think this should be able to help you understand that IP, intellectual property, cannot be divorced, but it cannot stand in isolation on its own. Other things goes with it. But if you get it right, you have more money. It creates jobs for your domestic market. It expands your business. It gives you competitive edge against your competitors. That is it for me for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sand, for the answer to that question. I will ask the next question to Ms. Christiana. How does IP licensing negatively affect business? Is there any negative effects of IP licensing to business?
Yes, the both groups have explained licensing very, very well. And the negative effect there is the licensee can potentially become a competitor. Most times this license is in form of an agreement, so it could expire, and the person you license your IP to could end up being a competitor to you. And then it could also lower the standard of the goods or products. They might not handle the IP right properly the way you would have loved to, and this could tarnish the reputation of your process. The negative effects there is it could also underestimate the value of your process. You may settle for too little or give away too much, and this comes under IP evaluation. You don't really know this. It's always very complicated. And then lot of licensees will ask for exclusivity, but it is a deal breaker. Signing an exclusive contract too quickly can cut you off from potential profits down the road. And then you could lose more control than you expected. Suppose you grant the licensee the right to assign the license to someone else. So you could lose control over it, and then lose all the things that you worked out to build. So the licensees could also even go bankrupt. And in bankruptcy hearing, the creditor has the right to take over the property. But in this instance, you could negotiate to prevent this by insisting during negotiation that if the company becomes insolvent or bankrupt, the license automatically expires. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Christiana. We still have 2 more questions, and I can see a new question on the chat box. So I'll just skip to the new question on the chat box and ask the first, which is, please explain the classes of trademark. Ms. Amosa can take the question.
Okay, so the classes of trademark actually is a nice classification system that kind of create a way of not giving people monopoly over trademark ownership. For example, when you meet a person and they tell you, I want to file a trademark registration, in their mind, what they believe is that once they file that trademark registration, nobody else in any industry can use that mark in another class, or can even use that mark at all. But that's not how it works. So trademark classification, we have 45 trademark classes. So if you are into maybe education and you protect your mark in class 41, which has to do with education, training, sporting activity, that's class 41. You are only limited to that particular class. So you are only protected in the class you are registered in. And this takes us back to the something huge case study, Sabinus. So if you know this Sabinus case, we know Sabinus as an entertainer, that's class 41, is into investment, finance and investment, that's class 36, and is also into advertisement, that's class 35. But in this case, Sabinus was only registered in class 35 because they call him Investor Sabinus, but it was not registered in class 35, neither was it registered in class 41. However, Peak Milk, that used the trademark something huge, is into, let's say, advertisement for that purpose of that IP infringement case. So Sabinus couldn't actually sue Peak Milk because it was not registered in the class Peak Milk was actually advertising in. It can only sue somebody that uses something huge in that class for investment. So you are only protected in the class you are registered in. But something about these big brands, what they do is they register their trademark across all the 45 trademark classes. And that is why they are easily able to sue people or brands that are using their mark without notification. So the summary of everything is that you are only registered in you're only protected in the class you are registered in. I hope that helps.
Yes, ma, it explains the question perfectly.
And Mr. Moderator, if you permit me, I think even the classification is globally accepted, as Christy has pointed out. 41, I think, is also applied to countries that are not even from Africa, maybe the US. I think it's a generally accepted norm to have different classes.
I think Indian trademark class is quite different from ours. So the trademark classes, don't go and use Indian trademark class for Nigerian registration. Some countries actually, it depends. It depends.
Yeah, so that is why international protocol then comes to play in this. When we belong to international protocol system, where if you are protected in a different class, your country can negotiate on the same country. Like, for example, as she has mentioned India. Now, if you have different classes, so you want to trademark or want to register your product in India, or you don't have that facility, there is this international protocol that helps us protect it. And for some of us that advocate for Commonwealth of Nations, nations becoming part of Commonwealth, this is places where countries benefit and directly business benefit when they belong to a Commonwealth, like for example, ARIPO nations or OAPI nations, which is the 2 intergovernmental agencies that protect intellectual property in Africa. So if a country belongs to one, you don't really, because it's expensive, as you can rightly deduce, that if you have to register all the whole classes, it's not very expensive for you to be enforced. But if you are part of a network of people that belong to that association that is accepted internationally or regionally, then you have some leverage as business to go to protect yourself. So what I'm saying indirectly now is that while you do business, you also find your business registered in the association. The reason being that it will be cheaper for you to protect your intellectual property when you are in trouble. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank you very much.
I think I'm just
Okay.
going to drop this. Probably you can have a separate class for international protection of IP. That should be a separate class from all of this discussion. So people can understand that they can actually go via the national route, the regional route, or the international route to protect their intellectual property rights.
All right.
That is
That
correct.
was noted, ma'am. Thank you very much. Our both mentors, Ms. Amosa, and also the contribution from Mr. Sand. This question is for Mr. Sand. Please give us a brief definition and explanation of geographical indication. As I can see, geographical indication is one of the topics on the IP scheme for this quarter, and we will be taking it elaborately in the week. We'll be taking that topic. So just give us a brief definition for this mentee that is asking, an explanation of what is geographical indication. The question is for Mr. San.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for the mentee that asked this question. Always glad to respond and to talk about geographical indication. Most times I can speak on this geographical indication thing for God knows when. I keep on talking because it has a huge potential and a huge leverage for developing countries. So GI itself, the word GI started was pronounced under the WTO when WTO was created under the TRIPS agreement, which is trade agreement and trade-related aspect of intellectual property rights by WTO in 1995. Yes, I think it's 1995. So geographical indication refers to a sign or symbol used on a product that have a specific geographical origin and possess quality, characteristic, or reputation attributable to their origin. So what this means in essence is this: GI is an aspect of intellectual property. It's a type of intellectual property that protects a product that is linked to a geographical area. Ijebu Gari is a potential GI product. Product that has been considered GI globally is like basmati rice, champagne, Kenya tea, I think it has qualified as geographical indication. Rabo tea from South Africa. There's a goat in Mozambique. The first GI in Mozambique is a goat, live goat. I understand in US and in EU, they have about 30 chicken. You know, the chicken you eat anyhow. In Nigeria, there are about 30 different kinds of chicken that are geographical indication. So geographical indication is a product that is linked to a location, and that product derive not just linking that product to a location, but it derives its quality and reputation or characteristics based on that geographical area. You know, in my opening remark, I was talking about our shea butter. Our shea butter is unique to us because its origin and local to us. So it's a potential GI product, but we are not benefiting from it because it's exported as a generic shea butter, but not attributing it to a specific geographical area. So that is the definition of geographical indication. It covers the interesting thing about geographical indication is that it covers foodstuff, wine, spirit, handicraft, industry food product like Swiss watch is a geographical indication product. So, but in the geographical indication product by law has two layers of protection. So there is TRIPS agreement Article 22 is for general geographical indication products. Then Article 23 gives upper layer of geographical indication for wine and spirit. So you can't have two champagne anywhere, but you can have, for example, Rabo tea for South Africa and Rabo tea or Rabo rice from Botswana. But for Africa, especially African group under WTO, are pushing for us to have double layer and higher level protection for geographical indication. I think when we have discussion in the next session, we'll be able to dwell more on specifics and how in the area of economic interest for producers, misappropriation of GI products, like a lot of African products are misappropriated, authenticity of GI product, reassurance, the quality, consumer benefits of GI. We can say it, and protection of traditional knowledge. We can talk way more on GI when we meet the next session. By then, I'll be more reserved. I'll be in my office and be able to compose myself and be able to speak well to the topic of discussion. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sandba. I'll be taking one question for Ms. Christiana, and the last question will be for all the mentors on the call to comment on. So the question for Ms. Christiana is, how can one effectively do an IP assessment and valuation of your business with the sole aim of maximizing profits?
Okay. The nature of IP makes it very, hard to value. It's difficult to define and challenging to price fairly. IP often, it represents the most valuable assets a business possesses. So it's like the most important thing for a business. If you take away their IP rights, they are naked. Then IP valuation, it helps to determine not only the value of the IP, but the true value of the business as a whole. And IP is actually becoming more important for manufacturers, especially in the technology and pharmaceutical space, since what differentiates them from competitors is their the trade secrets and other tangible property. And I think the method that could be used to value IP is it could be through the income method that is based on future projected cash flows related to the intellectual property. And it could also be based on the markets, like what is in the market, the observations in the market of the actual third-party transactions of comparable IP to determine a market price. But I just feel the most reliable method is not necessarily the one with the most optimal financial outcome for the business, but rather the method that is fair to both parties. And this can be very well determined if they are both properly represented by IP lawyers. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Christiana. I don't know if Mr. Musa also has any contribution to that before we're asking last question.
I think Ms. Christiana have actually done justice to that, because when it comes to IP valuation, it's not limited to just lawyers. You need economics, you need people in the financial sector before you can value and know the proper value of your IP. So like she said, you can either do a market-based analysis, a cost-based analysis, or a income-based analysis. So it's not just lawyers. You need different angles of analysis before you can actually value your IP. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Amusa and also Ms. Christiana. The last question for today, before we end the session for today, is how can one effectively put in place a mechanism of protecting trade secrets and confidential information of its organization in an attempt to stand out and generate more income? Ms. Amosa can go first.
Okay, to answer this question, I want to ask us a question. Have you seen the ongoing case about Elon Musk and Thread? So if you haven't, please check my LinkedIn page or my Instagram page to get more information about it. So basically, when you talk about trade secrets is that type of IP that people don't really put much details into, but it really works. For example, an example of a company that has been growing well or doing well with trade secrets is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has existed for more than 100 years and they don't have a patent. What they have is trade secrets. So if you are able to protect your trade secrets very well, then you have a very competitive advantage in the market. So basically, trade secrets are confidential information that gives your brand a competitive edge over others. So number one, it has to have value because it is secret. Number two, it has to be something that gives you a competitive edge. And number three, you must have put in place some measures to actually keep that secret confidential, like maybe a non-disclosure agreement in your employment contract or a non-compete clause. So you have to put in measures to actually protect that trade secret. But in an instance whereby you probably don't have that, or you don't have a big complaint, it's just the trade secret is just known by only you, the best thing you can do is keep quiet about it and don't share that secret. Now, your trade secret is not limited to your staffs or your clients. Where you buy your products from is a trade secret. Your clientele, they are your trade secrets. Because let's say, for example, you buy a product from me, then I go ahead to give somebody else that same vendor I buy my products from. Do you know that my sales rate is going to decrease because there's somebody else also buying from the same place I'm buying from? It's no longer exclusive to me. And that's the reason why most people like to do exclusive licensing or exclusive agreement. So once there's somebody in that same market with you, you probably might not experience the same kind of sales you're supposed to experience. So by keeping your trade secrets confidential, you have that opportunity to leverage the market. So doing so, you are able to generate more income for your business. So imagine if Elon Musk had actually put in place good agreement to keep his trade secret, probably we won't have trade now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is a good one.
Anita. And I really
Thank you,
enjoyed the example that was used because it's like a trending case right now. So I'll give the floor to Mr. Sands to contribute, and afterwards, Ms. Christiana would also contribute.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last speaker, that final example of trends and Twitter, it's going to be an interesting one. We are going to be seeing where the two billionaires were fighting themselves over who has what and who does not have and who has infringed. It's going to be an very interesting case as we proceed. For me, intellectual property is everything really, but at the same time, it doesn't stand in isolation. So as we move on or start our career and do businesses, let's not just look at it from one angle, look at it holistically. And as well, you cannot be jack of all and master of all. Consult an expert when you find it difficult to understand, because most of these things, if you say, oh, let me go and do it myself, I'm a lawyer, I'm everything. There are also the part of people that are experts, specifically in that area. Don't be the lawyer that does everything. Seek for help. Although it's most times that is why I'm not a lawyer. Anyway, I don't deal with lawyers. I accuse the people of making this too expensive. If you make it cheaper, your service is cheaper, you encourage more businesses to be able to use your service. But if you make it too expensive, you make it difficult for people to come to you. And that means people become more vulnerable to deception or misuse of the intellectual property assets. And for me, finally, my comment on intellectual property and business. Get value, create value, and protect it. You can use the cheaper area, but don't run into just having intellectual property. You can use the cheaper area of trade secret. Know your product and know your services. By so doing, when you then start getting mileage, you can then use that to then protect it. By there, you can add value. You can then have that intellectual property asset we're all craving for, where your logo was something, your content was something. You can make economic value from it, not just moral value. That is my sum of my submission this evening. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sand. I'll be giving the floor to Ms. Christiana to give us his final comments before
All right, thank you very much. The previous speakers have spoken well on that, and I think I dwelt more on that while I was making my presentation earlier. And I think the first thing first is identify what needs protection. Once you identify that, and then make sure those things remain secrets, and they must have economic value, and they must carry information, and they should remain secret. If not, you have legal recourse against the person or entity that's is disclosing the secret. And the ways you can get redress is by asking the court to to enjoin the party responsible from infringing or misappropriating your trade secrets, and you can sue for any resulting damages. And I think this is what Elon Musk is basing on the area of infringing or misappropriating of his trade secret by maybe his former employees that were now employed by the Instagram CEO. I think that's just it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, I can see Miss Amosa's hand. Thank you very much, Miss Christiana. I can see Miss Amosa's hand is raised, so I'll also give her the floor to make her final comments.
Okay, so my final comment, all that glitters is not gold. Despite the fact that trade secret is a good protection measure for your intellectual property, it also have its own disadvantages. And that is, number one, you can't register your trade secret. Number two, if your trade secret is reverse engineered, you can't sue anybody for it. And that brings us back to the same Elon Musk case. So if probably Meta is able to tell us that, well, he reverse engineered Elon Musk's trade secrets without getting any hints from any of his staff, then he won't have a say. Because the moment you're able to reverse engineer a trade secret, then there's no lawsuits. That is why patents come in to replace trade secrets. It's just that patents have 20 years limitation period as compared to trade secrets. So that will be all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to all our mentors for today. I believe all the mentees are enlightening and more educated on the topic from the time that you joined till the end of the meeting today. We hope to see our mentors on our future sessions, and kudos to all the group members that worked on the PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Amosa has sent me the beautiful PowerPoint slides that she presented. So I'll be sharing it on the group. Kindly do well to imitate those style of creating PowerPoint presentation on our future topics. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely weekend. Have an amazing weekend. Have a fun-filled weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.